welcome back to another Outdoor Philosophy. And my apologies for not having one last week. I actually recorded this video. I really did not like some parts of it, so I just decided not to publish it at all. But we are continuing with our discussion on dumbing down our kids. And today I want to look just at one specific chapter, and that is the attack on excellence. And I really want to focus on this chapter because it really hits to a lot of the things that we find going on in some schools where we're no longer focused on helping kids reach their highest potential. We're focused on helping kids reach a standardized test. And really, the first place I saw this sort of intersected, I had a de facto case where part of my education considered this, although it was for better reasons than oftentimes are being portrayed. So in my situation in college, I was a biochemistry major, and the school would only let our department do one single biochemistry course, and that had to fit everybody that needed it, which included the physical education nutrition people and the heavy scientists. And so the problem was the people from the nutrition department, and we had two of them in our class, they only had Gen Bio, Gen Chem, which is the whole year condensed into one semester and a very light overview, and Gen Organic, which is the entire organic chemistry in a broad overview in one semester. Then you had people like the rest of our basic curriculum who'd already had principles of biology, zoology, a few other of these types of courses. They also have already had a full year of chemistry, a full year of organic chemistry. And then I was unfortunately a crazy outlier because I got locked out of my freshman level classes, so I ended up having this really weird schedule, and I dumped a lot of extra chemistries into my junior year, I think. And I ended up going into our biochem course having a full year of general chemistry, a full year of organic, a full year of analytical, a full year of physical chemistry, anatomy and physiology, the entire biology minor. There was simply no comparison. So I had a professor who had to figure out how to make a course that is challenging enough for her majors, myself and a few other people, but wouldn't overwhelm the people who were in there who had only taken like 3 science courses ever in their life. How do you do that? And what ends up happening is you either make the course that's good for your margin and your outliers get either failing grades or are not challenged at all, which is not good when it's your major class, or you have to make your majors really learn something because that's the most important person that learns and leave everybody else completely in the dust. And so that was a very difficult circumstance. My apologies for that really stupid loud bird. It's actually piercing my ears. But what this chapter talks about is this attack on excellence, not these de facto cases like that where we kind of had to get into there, but cases where they're looking at excellence and saying excellence produces competition and competition causes some problems. And so what ends up happening is inside of some of these school systems, they start to look at anything that causes any degree of separation in student performance, and they look at that and say, that causes competition. Competition is bad. That hurts the self-esteem, and so we kick it out. So we end up with a course curriculum that has no degree of excellence, no degree of challenge. You're simply teaching to a test, and there's really nothing we can do for these students. Those that are good students get completely bored, left out entirely, and those that aren't really good students, they'll end up passing, but maybe not learning something. It's really hard to say. But what ends up happening with this concept of the attack on excellence is we start to look at schools without failing grades. We start to do away with any degree of competition. We want to give everybody the participation trophies. And it got to the point where one school district that he explains in here says that you couldn't get high-level grades. No student could get high-level grades on everything consistently. You had to eventually give them lower grades no matter what. And it got rid of all degree of excellence, all degree of understanding. So casting off the grades, they started to focus a lot more on team assignments instead of individual assignments. And then group and individual assignments are just not good. I have another story about this in high school. Now, I was just a geek, if you guys didn't picture that by now. So it was kind of funny because I had the same teacher in 7th grade who passed me with a D-. I think she just didn't want to have me in her class again. And I got F, F, D, D, and she passed me with a D-. That's 7th grade physical science. And then I had her again in environmental biology as a freshman in high school, and I think I started with a B, and then a C, then a D, then a C. You know, it's just whatever. Didn't really care as much. And then I had her again in environmental bio 2 in my senior year, and by this point in time, I had academically matured. I went from somebody who just didn't care at all about learning all the way up to a person who I studied for a passion and a hobby. In fact, I studied a lot of herbology and natural food. So looking around this forest here, there's so many things I'd like to make tea out of here. Like there's a whole bunch of sassafras over here. I'm like, maybe I should take some of that home. Have me some sassafras tea tonight. You know, I learned how to do all these kind of things. And it was just, it was this inner passion that grabbed onto me around my 10th grade year. Now I'm in my 12th grade year, and I was so far ahead of where she could picture I could possibly even be. And it was kind of fun for her to see such a radical academic change in somebody. So I'm in this course, and we had this thing where we were supposed to put together a poster presentation to teach a group of 5th graders something. And of course, anytime you get group assignments, you fall into the hierarchies. And I remember the names. I'm not going to mention them here. I remember the names of the people in my group. What ended up happening is I get in there and they're like, oh, this is the smart kid, we'll let him do everything. What ends up happening in that situation, and this happens in grade schools, wherever else, the kid who knows what they're doing doesn't want to have a low grade, and so out of frustration ends up doing everything while everyone else goes me, and does nothing. And that's what ended up happening, is I'm sitting here doing all these things. We're going to teach about parts of a leaf or parts of a flower. Of course, I know everything about this already, like not everything, of course, but, you know, for the high school perspective, I know, college level knowledge on this kind of stuff, having studied it for a few years. And so I'm putting together all this stuff, and my teammates go, you know. And so I finally go to the teacher and I said, look, these guys are not doing anything. They're not contributing. They're not helping with the poster. They're not helping with the presentation. They're not helping with anything. I said, can I just do it myself and let them do their own thing? She's like, sure. So I went off by myself and did the group project all by my lonesome, and those guys failed the project because they got and never did anything. And that's what ends up happening when you do away with this concept of individual grades and focus so much on cooperative learning. Now, that entire course wasn't entirely about cooperative learning, but it highlights those problems. Now, on the one side, you want to teach people to learn how to work together in a team, but on the other side, sometimes these kids are just not mature enough for that. And you have to have some degree of internal enforcement to sit back and say, what are we going to do to encourage everybody to participate? And what these guys are doing, pardon me, I lost my bookmarker. So what these guys were doing is they're doing away with individuals, and they're turning everything into education into this group session. And this group session is just really bad to teach kids and to train kids how to do things. And so the attack on excellence is an attack on the way our entire world works. That's the important part to think about. The way our world works is based on competition. It is based on rankings. As an author, I look at what my book rankings are compared to other books in the genre. How do I seek to make improvements on those models so I don't sit back and rest on my laurels? These are these questions that we always have to ask. They're the questions that we always need to look into. Ask yourself these simple questions every single time you go into some project. Is competition really a good thing? Absolutely. It encourages you to learn. It encourages you to try something new. It encourages you to get out there. Now, the key factor that I have learned in my life is not to compete with the rest of the world. The only person you should be competing with is yourself. Always seek to improve yourself. But even that is competition. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for coming along, and I hope that you enjoy your daily walk in our Lord.